Welcome back, everyone, for an all Miguel Diaz Cobra Kai watch party. While Cobra Kai is a show that hits all the notes everywhere, Miguel and his relationship with Johnny has always been the true heart of the drama. From season 1, where Johnny trained Miguel to stand up for himself and even coached him on his first date with Samantha, continuing in season 2, when Miguel followed Johnny's lead to be a more merciful dojo, to devastating consequences. In season 3, when Miguel was at his lowest, Johnny pushed him and drove him to a full recovery. In the end, it was his words that powered him to win the fight with Kyler. That brings us to season 4. As I said in my review, Miguel's story arc was lighter this season. Part of the reason is there were so many characters and storylines, there just wasn't enough screen time for him as there was in past seasons. But even still, Miguel's story is actually more the catalyst of Johnny's story arc than it is an arc for his own. When you think of a character's story arc, think of it as obstacles to overcome. These are the challenges and setbacks for the character along the way. It's very obvious to see those challenges in season 1 and season 3, which were Miguel's best seasons. What were actually the challenges for Miguel in season 4? There are a lot of scenes of Miguel training and bonding with Daniel, but there are really no major challenges here. The point is that they get along really well. He learns to fix a car, he learns to drive a car, he learns Miyagi-Do karate. The problem is they spike a jealousy in Johnny and create a challenge for him to overcome. This is a good scene, but it's really about Johnny. But for Miguel, not so much. There's very little conflict during his bonding with Daniel, so the scenes don't hit hard. The biggest obstacle Miguel has to overcome is not speeding through yellow lights. It's best exemplified when Miguel and Sam literally are the referees for the Daniel-Johnny rematch. Both of their stories were as much about creating conflict for those two than it was overcoming their own obstacles. In the first episode, they were trying to keep everyone together. That problem was eventually solved by Hawk in his sparring platform. By the time you get to the end of episode 5, Miguel and Sam have given up trying to keep Daniel and Johnny together. That's why they're refereeing the fight and not trying to stop it. Now you would imagine Miguel wanted to keep training with Daniel, and Sam wanted to keep training with Johnny, but that would mean they would work together to stop the fight. Instead, they helped put it on, front and center. This Miguel and Sam are a far cry from this Miguel and Sam who just wanted the combined dojos to work. If anyone could have stood up and stopped that fight, it would be those two, working together, but they didn't even try. Miguel left with Johnny and the Eagle Fangs at the end of the episode and never tried to get him to reconsider. The whole plotline of Miguel and Sam trying to keep it all together ultimately didn't go anywhere. So there we are. Half of the season is done and Miguel's primary story so far has failed, and in fact he seemed to give up on it himself. His scenes with Johnny were good, but it was really more about comedy with Johnny and finding Devin. This isn't Miguel's story, it's Johnny's story, it's Devin's story. He's just coming along. The problem then is from the moment Hawk walks in with his shaved head, Miguel has no scenes nor dialogue with him until they meet in the semifinals. They were at prom together but never interacted. It's like Eli and Dimitri were losers who needed another friend, but once they learned karate, they ditched Miguel. That's a shame. Back after season 2, I said my favorite relationship in the show was Miguel and Hawk, but now it just falls by the wayside. While I don't actually believe they stopped being friends, the show is so big not everything could be included. The other reason is since the plot required Hawk to join Miyagi-Do, if Miguel tried to convince him to come back to Eagle Fang, he would have to ultimately fail. That would give Miguel another failed story arc, so it was smarter to avoid the question altogether. There's no point in Miguel coming to Hawk if the plot was forcing something else to happen. Miguel and Sam's relationship mostly treads water through the season. This one makes sense. There's been a lot of relationship drama on the show already, and there's little need for more. I admit I would like to have seen Miguel's reaction to this moment. He would have surely seen or realized Tori was working there, and Sam was kissing him to make her jealous. I don't think he would appreciate being used like that for her spat with Tori, but we didn't get that. It could have been an interesting scene, but again, there was no time. As far as prom is concerned, Robbie and Tori definitely played their mind games. It distracted both of them at the dance. The whole fight and throwdown by the pool was more about the girls than Miguel. At some point it just gets boring talking about that. I will say, as far as this ever oh so little moment between him and Tori, it isn't too vital. Maybe once there was something between them, and yeah, when they wrestle down to the ground together, it almost comes back, but he makes his choice in the end. He stays with Sam. And for what it's worth, Tori makes her choice too. She makes that choice right about there. So they're both committed to their relationships. There was no breakup, there was a little drama. Prom didn't go well, but Miguel made clear he still cares for Sam. In fact, she was the only person he saw before he left for Mexico. She'll definitely be upset he left without telling her or anyone that he was leaving. It could certainly be dangerous, so she'll be worried too. Expect a little back and forth early on in season 5 to cover this. I assume Miguel did bring his phone with him, so he'll probably call her and his mom when he reaches Mexico City. Now obviously he left to find his father. Fatherhood has always been an important theme in this franchise. Nowhere does it run deeper than with Miguel in this season. His bonding with Daniel echoes Daniel's own bonding with Mr. Miyagi. Fixing cars, learning to drive, first time seeing Top Gun. Those are the things you do with your father. The fact that this is what drives a wedge between Johnny and Daniel is what highlights the problem for Miguel. They're both surrogate fathers. Neither is his real dad. Had Miguel known and been close to his real dad, none of this infighting would have happened. In a way, Johnny and Daniel arguing and breaking up reminded Miguel they weren't his real dad. That may have been workable, something he could get through. But consider what happened on prom night. He was going with Sam, his girlfriend, his dream girl. He wanted to drop the L-bomb. He was going to look deep into her blue eyes and say, "I love you." Tonight was the night. He was finally ready. It was going to be the perfect capstone to the perfect night. Except their night wasn't perfect.
I was supposed to be for you and me, and you ruined it.
Frustrated and heartbroken, he went home and saw Johnny, and ultimately decided to say it to him instead.
I love you. I love you too, Robbie.
Miguel is crushed. That's heartbreaking. Twice in one night. He feels more alone than ever. His real dad was out there and he never knew him. Of course, all of Johnny's failed pep talks at the tournament contributed to that. It was like divorced parents manipulating their kids against the other parent. It was wrong on every level and Miguel realized it. He felt more and more disconnected to everything, so he decided not to fight and leave. But this does bring us to the most disheartening moment of Miguel's story. It's when he ultimately does walk away from the match. A match he could have fought in and very likely could have won. Now we know the story reasons. Johnny was turning the whole thing into his rivalry with Daniel. Miguel felt like he wasn't fighting for himself anymore. Miguel is old enough and he's certainly been through enough to know that in the end, a match like this, you have to do it for yourself. It's not for your sensei. It's not for the rivalry. It's not that you dislike that team or that opponent, or even you like your opponent. It's because you worked hard all the way and you want to prove what you can do. The creators have said in interviews that Miguel has already proven he can win, and that he's getting sucked into these rivalries that aren't his. But the problem is Johnny said that back in season 3.
Look, you already proved you can win. And I need to prove it again.
That's the Miguel we know. That is the Miguel with fire. He needs to prove it again. And frankly, that's how winners and champions think. I'm not talking some John Kreese TV show talk about winners. I mean real champions. They have an internal fire that drives them. Nothing will stand in the way. Hyper-competitive winners will make up lies about the other person as a way of motivating themselves. No one will stop them. This Miguel here would have gone out on the mat and finished his match full force. It doesn't matter what Johnny said. That's why he challenged Johnny directly. He wasn't going to accept Johnny telling him to take it easy or telling him he already proved himself. He needed to do it for himself. That's the heart of a champion. Seriously, if you want to see this play out in real life, watch The Last Dance on Netflix. you'll see the mind of the people who compete at the highest levels possible.
Kind of went by and I went, uh-oh, should have never done that.
That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that. And it became personal with me.
Once you understand that drive, it's hard to be okay with Miguel's decision not to fight. He wanted it and absolutely did have something to prove. In fact, with what he had been through, Miguel had the most to prove, not the least. It all feels like plot convenience. The plot needed Miguel to leave for Mexico. It needed Hawk to make the finals. Actually, Eagle Fang was already eliminated from winning overall.
The right female fighters get eliminated, and Miguel makes it to the final, and he wins, then technically, there's a chance.
She says the right female fighters, but what she really means is Sam and Tori. Well, Sam and Tori weren't eliminated, they both won, so there's no hope for Eagle Fang to win overall, even if Miguel won the boys division. In fact, if Miguel beat Hawk, that would guarantee Cobra Kai wins overall. Cobra Kai had the most points going into the last round and made the finals in both brackets. Miyagi-Do could only keep up because Sam made the finals and if Hawk made the finals. But if Miguel beats Hawk, they don't score those points for the win in the semifinals. Cobra Kai wins the overall by default, even if Miguel and Sam both win the finals. They win points but were in separate dojos. So really, Miguel walking away comes across more as convenience of plot than a true defining character moment. Honestly, I would rather believe that Miguel didn't fight because he realized Eagle Fang had no chance and Hawk had to make it to the finals for anyone other than Cobra Kai to win. It's still not perfect, but it would show some strategic thinking for the greater good in his decision. While we don't know what's in store for the future of the show, I do hope Miguel gets a chance to prove himself in a way closer to his spirit. Looking ahead, it's a big question what Miguel will encounter in Mexico. In fact, it seems like the writers themselves were unsure what would happen when they wrote that ending. We'll just have to wait and see. Obviously his father is coming and I'll look into that in a future video. What did you think of Miguel's story in Season 5? Did it hit all the notes or was it lacking a little? Do you think he should have fought his match and proved he could still win? Leave a comment and let me know. Be sure you're subscribed as there's a lot more analysis and theories to come. Have a great day. I'll see you at the next watch party.